How can we not feel God in ourselves with that beautiful music? Thank you so much. Just wonderful, wonderful selections this morning. For us to dive into recognizing Spirit and knowing that the Spirit of God is working through me every single moment. But I do find that God does like to test me sometimes. I have a Polish little lamb sheepdog. She's a puppy. She's only a year and about 18 months old. So my habit is on the weekend, I like to prepare in advance some meals for the week. Somehow I can't break that habit from when I was working, right? I'm retired now. I wouldn't have to do this, but I do it. So I had gotten these two nice little perfect fillets and a breaded pork chop. And I had cooked these perfectly so that I knew that they were just right, that I could just warm them up a little bit and be ready to eat them for my meals, right? But I needed to cool them, so I put them on one of my favorite pretty plates that was an Italian scene, and I had it on the counter. And I thought, okay, I'm just going to let them cool a little bit, then my next one is, get them in the fridge. But I decided, I needed to go get a book, and it was to prepare for this service. And I was just getting the book out of my bookcase, and I heard this crash. And I thought, what in the world is that? What did I must have said something, too close to the edge or something. So I get in the kitchen. Here's my beautiful plate, broken on the floor. My boxer and my Polish lowland sheepdog are nowhere to be found. My two fillets are gone, and my pork chop's gone. And believe me, I had some inappropriate choice words being expressed. And then I realized I stopped. And I remembered what I was preparing for this service that said, the way you feel is based on how you choose to react. My initial reaction was not in the Spirit of God, so I needed to calm down. And I did, and I had to look at these two dogs with crumbs on their lips and just know that God's in them and that I love them. It's okay. Because you can't punish a dog once the evidence is gone, right? And they made sure it was gone quickly. So I then sat down and I said, okay, how do I express this? Because my reaction wasn't exactly the way that my service is going to be conducted today. But I had to remind myself that I'm only human. And that there's going to be times in life which are going to be much more significant than losing a couple fillets and a pork chop that will test me all the time on how I need to react to what's happening to me. And so I thought, I said thank you to the God in me and around me, because this was the perfect time in my life. The end of January, I'm still rolling into the new year, 2024. And I thought, this is a perfect message for me to prepare for and to share. So I started out with my paragraph that was for the newsletter, and it says, Spirit is working through you with every breath you take, every word you speak, every thought you think, and every smile you share, radiating the divine. There is only one true power, and that is God, who works in all of us, creates through us, and manifests as us. You are all God's unique creations. Be still and know that Spirit is present in you and working through you. And I loved all of that, and I embrace all of that. But at the same time, I know that there are days of challenge. There are days of challenge ahead. There are going to be more things that happen around me, and I have to be able to continue to practice awareness. And so one of the exercises I came across in one of the references for unity was to really take time to have mindful observation for each day. So I thought, okay, what can I think about? And I decided, right before I conduct this service, that I would practice my own observation because I'm going to ask you to practice it. So I stepped outside because I love the sunshine this morning, the briskness of it. And I looked up in the tree behind the center, and there were these two beautiful blackbirds. One sitting on each side of the tree. They were just kind of chatting with each other. And so I had them perfectly framed in my vision, and I have a passion for blackbirds. I collect art that has blackbirds in it, etc. And to me it was like a sign for my day. I took the time to observe something that was going to reinforce me today. And then right up above was the stream of a jet. And it was just so beautiful and free, and it just made me think about all of the people on that jet that are destined somewhere to see a loved one or to go to the beach or whatever. And it reminded me that I need to celebrate all the opportunities in life to do exactly what we want to do. And so with that example, I would like you just to take a few moments, and I'd like you to close your eyes, and we're just going to take a couple minutes to think about, what did you observe this morning? And how did you feel when you observed it? Now, with those observations in mind, how many of you observed something that made you feel good? Excellent. And it only took a couple of minutes to think about something good to set your mind for the day. And that's the perfect exercise for us every day, for us to visualize and see around us the beauty that God surrounds us with, and to appreciate it. Maybe put a smile on your face. And that's how you set your mind for the day. It's our way of expanding our thoughts and to correlate them to the emotion, because we're human. All of the things in this universe are always unfolding. There is an infinite, empowered universe that surrounds us. And it's not always something we can see, right? The Creator is always creating, and the creations are always there for us to observe. So all of these things are great. It appears that maybe they're separate from us, but are they really? Are they really separate from us? God's always in us. God's always around us. So we're not separate from anything. We're not separate from the good. We're not separate from whatever evil there is out there. But how we take it into our minds and respond to it is what creates our unity with the world. It's an infinite intelligence that God has. There is that one infinite essence, and it gives rise to everything. It gave rise to each of us in our uniqueness, and it is our truth. So let's look at the key elements that support that. Because to know your truth, you use your mind. So, we are energy. That's the first principle we need to accept. Actually, there are over 7 octillion atoms in the human body. And you wonder, well, how many zeros is an octillion? It's 27. That's a lot. That's a lot of infinite creativity. But we're made up of basically 4 elements. We're made up of hydrogen, oxygen, carbon, and nitrogen. 4 what one might think simple things. Yet they create us, and every 7 years, every cell in our body is made new. That's how we go from being a baby to being a teenager to being adults. Your body you have now is not exactly what you were born with. But you have everything that God gave you because the infinite is you. It actually takes 100 trillion atoms to make up your one cell in your body. So I couldn't help but start asking questions. Because since there are 4 elements, and these 4 elements are on Earth and they're elsewhere too, right? And there may be even more that we don't know about. But I asked the question, so where were those atoms before they joined up to form my body? They existed. It was part of God's creation. Well, were the elements in my body part of stars? Of just rocks? Of planets? What about the gases out in the galaxy that's infinite? Was I made up of some of that? And I thought, excitingly, yes, I must be, because I'm energy. And energy is infinite. And that energy has been in existence for eternity and beyond. It gives life to me. And then I thought some cool stuff. I thought, well, there's no reason that I couldn't have a particle of Jesus in me, right? There's no reason I couldn't have a particle of a dinosaur in me, right? Because I consume petroleum products, right? Unfortunately. So we are wonderful little beings, aren't we? And we are the smartest being on the planet, and we're made up of all that ever existed. We are made up of all of whatever will ever exist, because we're infinite. And I learned an interesting fact last weekend, that when the sperm and the egg join together to create us, there's a flash of light. Science has proven that there is a spark when the sperm and the egg join. And I said that to a few of my friends, and I was really surprised at how many women said to me, I knew exactly when I conceived my son. I knew exactly when I conceived my daughter, because they knew that spark. Creation, God, just so marvelous, just so spectacular. That's you and me. We started as a little spark. Now, look outside of us. Look at the earth, look at the sun, look at the moon, and look at the infinite darkness. And we're out there sending people out into all of that to check it out, to further understand creation, the divine. And we're connected to all of that. We're connected in every way in this universe by that which is God, by the divine, by the infinite. Whether we look at the science of it, or we look at the compassion and love that we share with each other, or when we remember to say and greet someone and say, I see you. Because when I say, I see you, I see the God in every single one of you. And that's joy. That's love. We've got a responsibility. We have a responsibility to add to that divine, to be a participant in life, to add to this world. Because when we start, we are innately filled with happiness, joy, love, compassion, and we possess all goodness without limit. The only limitation is what we impose, and that's through our minds. Because actually we are already whole and complete. If anything shows up as missing, it's because our minds let it go, not because it wasn't there. And perhaps it's the greatest tragedy that we don't live from our space of wholeness. That some days we greet the day differently. We don't jump up and say, oh God, it's morning. Some of us jump up and say, oh God, it's morning. So living our wholeness, it doesn't mean that we need to meditate for hours and hours. That's not what we need to do. We just need to know and affirm through our prayer our wholeness. Because it's our wholeness that connects us to the ancient past, and it connects us to the present, as well as the entree for the future. If you would, repeat with me the following. We're going to repeat it 3 times. I am divine and whole with Spirit working through me. I am divine and whole with Spirit working through me. I am divine and whole with Spirit working through me. I am divine and whole with Spirit working through me. Do you have any doubts? Do you have any doubts? Aren't there some days, though, that you kind of go, okay, I really got to pull it together today? Well, I'm going to refer to a book that I really enjoyed reading. It was by Dr. Wayne Dyer. And it's titled, Book You'll See It When You Believe It. And by it, he means there's an intelligence, an ability to think and feel, to possess a higher consciousness. Why? Because you are a spiritual being having a human experience. It's not vice versa. You're not just a human having a spiritual experience. You start, your core is your spiritual being. And matter of fact, an awakened life begins when you own it. When you recognize and say, I have everything that I need because I'm whole and complete. Because our nature we're born with, babies giggle, right? How long's it been since you really kind of giggled, or that somebody tickled you and you laughed and you played? I'm glad that one of our members was dancing. Because we need to dance in this life. We need to experience that joy. We need to be happy. We need to be compassionate. We need to bless the earth first with peace in ourselves so that it radiates from us. And when you realize that, you don't have to chase happiness or joy. It's there. Matter of fact, in the Bible, Paul suggests in Romans 12:2, and be not conformed to this world, but be you transformed by the renewing of your mind, that ye may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. I also had an opportunity, I was watching an interview of Maya Angelou, and I've watched several, and I actually had the fortune at once to attend one of her sessions and talk about a spiritual, loving person and a strong person. And did you know her faith started with unity?
I just learned that.
Yeah. And it was because she was attracted to unity because of it being such an affirming faith that really resonated with her, because there was education as part of it. And then did you know that Maya, when she delivered the poem in President Clinton's inauguration, that she was the second person to ever read poetry for an inauguration? Robert Frost was the first, and she was the first black woman to ever do that. And it resonated with the world. She captured the world with that inauguration. She also wrote The Caged Bird Sings. And she was asked, well, why does a caged bird sing? And she says, because they're crying and they're singing for freedom. And we talked about in the very beginning, when we had our reading for this service, how important freedom is for us. And we're not caged birds. We've all been singing this morning. And we sing to celebrate our wholeness. Another favorite affirmation of hers that she recites: there is no place that God is not. She says, God's in prisons, God's in our artists, God's in our musicians, and God's in every single one of us. She also referred to an old spiritual song, and I thought this was really a cool line. Know that God has put a rainbow in the clouds, and be a rainbow for everyone. And she closed her presentation with, in God I love, move, and have my being. I also selected a reading, and I've referred to Butterworth before. It's in his book, Discover the Power Within You. And he says, we all must recognize that it was the Christ within which made Jesus what he is. And our power now to help ourselves and to help others lies in our comprehending the truth. For it is a truth, whether we realize it or not, that this same Christ lives within us that lived in Jesus. It is the part of himself which God has put within us, which ever lives there, and with an inexpressible love and desire to spring to the circumference of our being, to our consciousness, and as our sufficiency in all things, in our lives. We have everything. And that's why our declaration for this month is affirming the God in us and affirming the God in others. So thank you so much for taking the tour through a little science of what we're made of. And maybe you thought about, gosh, what might I be a part of from all of that galaxy, from all the planets, from all the people that we've known, the spiritual leaders of the world? Your atoms may be made up of them. So with that, I'm going to close. For you are God's living enterprise. God has wonderful things to say through you, which God can only say as you. The universe could not be complete without the divine in each of you. Amen, and thank you.